everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tuong, the weekly quarantine show where I get to talk to my friends near and far to talk about movies, animals, love, and marmalade. What could we possibly be talking about this week? You know what? I always tease what we're about to talk about, but I keep forgetting that people literally can see the episode title every week. So I don't know why I'm always cagey about it. I do this on Ranked too. I'm like, what are we talking about? Save it.
It's actually Transformers.
Exactly. We've done that already too. Bumblebee. Anyways, that person who loves Transformers, loves to... Actually, no, I can't. Let me introduce them and then I'll tell you what they love. I'm talking about Sarah MacDonald?
Yes.
This has changed. This has changed. Wow. Sarah, you are a new person.
I am a new person and I'm in between names at the moment.
Are you in between names?
I am in between names.
Are you thinking of like a combination of your names?
No, I'm just for the listeners, I got married and I am changing my name and trying to do that during COVID isn't easy.
Okay.
So it took a long time for our marriage license to get in. And now I have booked a vaccine appointment and I don't want to change my health card before that.
So, I think that's the true test of marriage, right? Like to see, do you love, and everyone knows Angus on the show, Angus MacDonald, everyone, but do you truly love Angus enough to stick to your guns with your former last name on your health card, or you say, screw the vaccine, I don't want it, I believe in science, but my love is stronger?
Well, I just have to wait a month, so I'll wait.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I love Angus.
We all do. We all love.
But I love health as well.
Yes. I they're two equally as strong things that you can love, right? Like they're not.
Yes.
They aren't mutually exclusive. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Being healthy and loving Angus, I hope not. Otherwise, we're both in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone, for those of you who don't know Sarah has graced the pod cavern, a dear friend of mine and everyone in the pod cavern. But if you don't recognize her voice, she's been on many episodes of Ranked at this point. Let's see, some Pokemon episodes.
Yes.
Captains, a traveling episode we did. Yes. Sarah's around, but you've never been on Talkin Tuong.
No, I haven't. And all of my previous appearances were as Sarah Gadban. So
that's right.
They don't count
old
anymore.
You.
Yeah.
And you're a brand new person. I barely recognize you anymore. So for myself and for the listeners, can you describe a little bit about yourself?
So that's a fun question. I was actually asked that question in my first job interview. I was told to describe myself in 3 words. And I don't remember the first 2 that I gave because they were standard corporate, like I'm motivated and a go-getter. But the 3rd word I used was happy, actually. So I am a very happy person. And I immediately regretted saying that in an interview because it wasn't work-related at all, but I got the job. So obviously they like happy people. I work as an engineer. So that's my job. And I mostly play a lot of video games and manage Angus's podcasting schedule.
Oh, that's good. Someone has to because he can't.
No, he double books himself a lot.
I can tell. This engineer thing, and I guess we don't have to make this a work episode.
No,
but engineer is such a broad term.
Yes,
and
I am a geotechnical engineer. So I am a dirt engineer. I look at dirt.
You like the dirty stuff.
I do. I love dirty stuff.
Yeah. I guess my question about engineers and my question to all my engineer friends, I've always asked them is what powers did you gain by wearing specialty jackets in school and that iron ring?
A very high alcohol tolerance for a very specific period of time. It's gone now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And also the ability to see in the dark. But don't tell people that. Wow. Actually, I can't believe I admitted that. That's the ring is what gives that.
The ring, right?
Yeah.
Did you have the jackets plural?
I did. Well, I had a jacket.
Okay, so it's always the same jacket that people continuously wear, no matter what season it is.
Yes, yeah, and it is not winterized. Like it comes with a fur insert. It does not work. You will freeze to death. So I guess cold intolerance as well. Cold tolerance. Cold tolerance.
Tolerance, not intolerance. Yes, I don't think. Yeah, I have always looked at those people at school because, like, I mean, I get it. It's always the hardest programs to get in. Clearly, they're smart and they're not afraid to show it by wearing that damn jacket around campus and flashing their rings, blinding everyone else, doing their secret ceremonies, partying hard, but also being drowned in homework as well. So, I think it's
you don't need to guess if someone's an engineering student. They'll tell you.
They'll tell you. Yeah, I've been told many times. So, and I'm like, okay, I don't care. You're my friend, and that's all I care about. Friendship. Yeah. I'm happy during an interview. That's an interesting thing. Maybe I'm not the best person to ask, and I've done a lot of interviews back in my day, and I hate them. First of all, interviews are dumb. I think the best way to interview someone, I'm not sure if it's possible, is just do like a trial by fire. Throw them in the thing, see how they do. That would be
great. Yeah.
Because otherwise, like how I studied for an interview is the way I study for tests, is basically get really stressed out, write a bunch of stuff down and memorize it like a script for a play. And when keywords are triggered, I'd be able to regurgitate the answer back to them. Right. And that's not really like when people are like, oh, name me a time when this and this happened and how you overcame this. I'm like, dude, like, I don't even remember what I did yesterday. Like, yeah.
It's just an exercise in lying is all it is. It's like, can you lie well enough to, make people think that you're a functional human being? And can I lie enough to you to make this job appealing? Because it's just a job. Parts of it are going to suck.
For sure. And that's why your answer of happy, and if I were to interview you, which I would never be qualified to because I have my own thoughts of interviews, but if I were to ever talk to someone like that and they gave me the answer of happy, I'd be like, I'm interested in this person because they're no longer giving me the corporate bullshit of just like telling me what I want to hear and instead telling me a little bit about themselves. And I think that's way more interesting to have as an employee than just like a drone who's just gives me what I want.
Yeah. Could you imagine if I had said like grumpy?
I would love that too.
I'd be like, yeah, you're hired.
Unless you said something like lazy.
Like I'm really motivated, but also lazy.
I just hate working. Honestly, I just want a job. Sarah, there's more to life than just work. And like I said, this is not a work podcast, so I'm going to completely sidestep that now. But you like to play video. We have a lot of the same interests, you and I, which is why we're such good friends. But what are the things in life right now that keep you happy during the pandemic? Canada is really slow with the vaccine rollout, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Like it's you can kind of see it.
I will be a McDonald.
Yeah, for sure. What are the things that keep you happy?
Well, I think you said it already. Video games, obviously. Mm-hmm. Also a lot of Netflix and podcasting and we have a forest behind our house, and now the weather's getting nice. We go for walks, and that's about it. Just kind of living that.
The old quarry trail, is that it?
Yeah, exactly.
My old stomping grounds. Nobody would get that unless you live specifically in Ottawa and specifically in a certain neighborhood in Ottawa.
It's a great neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about some nerdy stuff real quick. Things like video games. What are you playing?
Right now I'm playing a lot of Genshin Impact.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
girls, I get it.
Yeah, they're really good. Stardew Valley right now. I did start playing Yakuza 0.
Oh, very good.
Which is a lot of fun. And by Yakuza 0, I mean I'm playing a lot of Mahjong in Yakuza 0.
Right. Yeah.
And beating people up in between.
Can really just play Mahjong in general without having to boot another game to play Mahjong.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
It feels a lot tougher if I play it as like a Yakuza member. So
right. Yeah.
What else? I have a lot of games on the go, actually. I think I've complained about this to you several times.
Such a first world problem.
I know. In the pandemic. Like I still need to finish Persona Strikers.
Oh, so good.
I really like I need to finish it. But Angus is always podcasting, so it's hard to play games with sound.
It's hard, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
First world problems.
It truly is first world problems, the way you're describing.
My husband podcasts too much.
Yeah.
So I can't play video games.
I mean, like you own a house. I'm pretty sure you could figure out some sort of different setup, but I know you like playing video games. You have 2 giant TVs in your living room.
Yes.
Yeah. And you like to play next to each other.
Yes, we have PlayStations hooked up to both. And we also now have a third television upstairs with a PlayStation hooked up to it. But my Persona game is downstairs. And so if I was smart, I would download it in the upstairs room, but I haven't yet.
Man, I love these problems. They're very small problems.
Guys, there's a reason why I describe myself as happy.
Yeah. You know what? That's all you need. Like video games keep me happy for sure. TV and movies and all that stuff as well. Like you need something, especially living in Canada and in Ontario. Very frustrating time right now as of this recording. So just any sort of distraction to be like, fuck, the world sucks. Back to video games.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, we are going to go into the news of the week. Now, we usually record this on Sundays to release on Mondays, but today it's a long weekend. We're doing this on Friday, baby. Yeah. So with that, there's probably going to be a giant story hitting this weekend that we're totally going to miss. And people are going to be like, why didn't you cover that? We do what we want on Talkin Tuong. That's what I say. Okay, this is a huge thing. I basically only listen to 1 or 2 podcasts outside of my own podcast because I have to edit it, which is surprising as someone who runs a podcast network. But I've heard this many times and now it's hit a new story. So here we go. The story is, and I'm going to have to give a little bit more context than just the headline, but here we go. Walmart confirms it has not suspended the sale of Pokemon cards. So why is this news? And I'll tell you, you know, we, Sarah, you and I grew up in the beginning age of Pokemon.
Yes.
And spoilers, Pokemon is as popular as ever, even more so. And with that, Pokemon cards still is like this behemoth of a thing that people love and getting physical cards so much that in the States, in Targets all around the country, people are getting hurt on Friday. Yes. On Fridays, I was listening. This is off a podcast, the Giant Bombcast, a video game podcast, but someone on that podcast, and he was just describing the story. On Fridays is the day they get new physical cards, whether that's Pokemon, sports cards, Magic cards, whatever. But the 2 hot ones are specifically Pokemon cards at the very top, followed by sports cards, and then every other card is like nobody cares. Yeah. And people line up like you would like a new console launch for like a new Nintendo console or a PlayStation.
Wow.
At like 3 a.m, 4 a.m, they're camping out in line
every week, every
Friday.
Wow.
And the store owners, depending on what Target you go to, they'd say, hey, everyone, you get 1 box. You get either 1 box or 1 booster, or you can get a box and a booster, but you can't buy more than 1. There's very structured like that.
Wow. And
people are butting in line, bringing guns, America, and literally hurting people and threatening people's lives over Pokemon cards.
Wow. That's insane. That is truly just it. So it's funny that you bring this up. I was actually looking at my Pokemon cards last night. I have a Pokemon, a metal Pokemon lunchbox, and Angus looked at it and he said, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's full of my Pokemon cards. And the idea that I would, try to get more of those with a gun is a little astounding.
Yeah.
They're not worth that much. Like I've looked it up. Like I know some cards are worth, like I have a lot of the original cards. Like I have a lot of the original packs and everything. And mostly the event cards are what, are the expensive ones where it's like, oh, they only printed 100 of these and you had to go to this conference. Right. Because I looked this up because I found my Pokemon cards and I went, oh, cha-ching. No. No, they're worth like $2.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I like some of the holofoil ones I have are like $9, $8. Like I could probably get, a couple hundred for like this whole giant box that I have, but I'd rather keep them for sentimental value. That being said, if I found out that they were worth $100, I might sell them. But
that's interesting.
Like, I can't imagine people going every week.
And not even just every week. It's multiple stores. Like you're going Target hopping for Pokemon cards.
And then what do they do with them?
So my understanding is most Pokemon scalpers, if you will, aren't always going in it for playing Pokemon. Not surprising. It's literally trying to flip them like stocks kind of thing. Yeah. It's buy low, open up the packs, and then like, sweet, I got a whatever hell Charizard it is this time, and selling it for a lot of money. Like
I'm sure if you get really lucky,
you
would have it seems like playing the lottery though. Like I can't imagine anybody's really making that much money off of this.
I've heard it is quite a bit. I don't know a number exactly, but it's quite a bit. And there are websites that you can go to get an official rating and review by, I guess, specifically a Pokemon Raider online. And you can, and it costs money to do it, or you can get express rating from them. So you can fast line how quickly you can rate your cards to see how much money it is by spending more money to do so.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
How do you get that job?
I don't know, but I'm like, what do you look for?
Somebody our age has their dream job now of being a Pokemon card rater.
I just see it, like what's that movie? Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, where people are rating like diamonds and stuff, like, like mafia type people who are just like, oh yeah, this diamond that I found in like the mines of the Amazon or whatever. And then you flip diamonds and instead it's just like a Pikachu or something.
A very special Pikachu.
Yeah. Anyways, that's our Pokemon news for the week here. Maybe, I'm not sure. We'll see what else we got here. China has successfully landed its own Mars rover. Thoughts on this?
Good. I think I always have. So I'm not sure if this is going to come up as well. I guess that was last week, actually, that bit of rocket that fell out of the sky.
Oh yeah,
the satellite thing, right? So on one hand, we have rovers landing on Mars, and on the other hand, we have things falling out of the sky. And I think we need to kind of reconcile these two things. I think rovers going to Mars are always cool, though.
That's always cool stuff.
It's always cool. Yeah. It's good for us as a society to be able to expand our scientific knowledge.
That spoken like a true dirt engineer. I can see you be like, bring me back some of that dirt.
I want some Mars dirt, guys.
Oh, that would be cool for anybody, right?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Amazing.
That would be cool. Speaking of Mars, another Mars story. Volcanoes on Mars could still be active. That's a thing.
Interesting. I wonder how they figured that out.
I would hope you would tell me.
That's actually a link that I would want to see. I was under the impression that Mars lost its magnetosphere. So the internal, I guess, currents, I don't know really how to describe this, have slowed down. So I can't imagine there's that much volcanic activity, but I mean, obviously there's some.
You're so much smarter than me because as soon as he said Magnetosphere, I'm like, the X-Men? Like,
yes, that's exactly it. He's
in a bubble.
Michael Fassbender, Irish Michael Fassbender.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Harry Potter news. Nothing JK related, thankfully this time. But Harry Potter is getting a TV series, but it's a quiz show.
What? Like just like a game show with Harry Potter
let's
trivia?
See here. I'll read the first paragraph here, which is just a sentence. Harry Potter is getting 2 Wizarding World TV specials as part of a 5-night event on HBO Max. And I guess it's just a quiz show. And I don't know anything else about it.
Do they know how much money they're going to lose? Because there are so many Harry Potter trivia experts out there. Like they're just going to get a bunch of people who know everything.
Yes. And then it's no fun for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun for me to watch and go, oh, yeah, these people know a lot about Harry Potter.
I'm not going to watch it. Truth be told, there's no way that I'm going to watch it.
Either.
Yeah. That's like the Friends reunion. Like, no, sure. Friends I grew up with, Harry Potter I grew up with, all these things. I don't care. Give me something else. Not that much. All right. Here's a story. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Did you play that game?
No, I didn't.
Great game. Love it so much. It's coming to the Switch very soon, just like a remastered port type of thing. Lots of controversy this week for the people who love Legend of Zelda. There is a quality of life feature that they put into the game where essentially you can take to the skies anywhere you want. But and that's kind of the thing in Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is you have like this giant bird creature and there's like a mechanic where you're in the sky flying. It's a whole majestical thing, but it was trapped behind like some weird game limitations that they arbitrarily made back in the day. And they're opening it up for people, but you got to buy an amiibo to do it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's not a quality of life improvement.
No. I was going to say, like, you can see I have a shit ton of amiibos. I love amiibos. I'm obsessed. I think they just look cool. I don't use them for any of its functionalities because usually in a game, their functionality is like, I don't know, get an apple in the game. Like they're very like, aesthetic, does not matter type of thing. Yeah. But like, something like that seems like that's a little unfair.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, I
mean, even if you just had to pay for it, like, don't necessarily make people buy an amiibo.
Yeah,
but also don't make people pay for it.
Don't make people pay for it. I mean, the game like is just a port anyways, and I'm a sucker. I'm gonna play it anyways. But
you'll have to tell me how it is.
Specifically, if you're going to make a quality of life change, don't hide it behind another paywall because you're already charging full price for it.
Yeah, that's insane. Just make it part of the game.
Yeah. Here we go. Internet Explorer, our favorite browser on the planet for Windows 10, will be discontinued next year.
That's something I actually knew already. I use Internet Explorer at work.
Why?
Because our timesheet system at work only works on Internet Explorer. So I keep the browser. And also, fun fact for those of you who use SharePoint, you can make things open with File Explorer through Internet Explorer only. Doesn't work on Chrome.
Really?
Yes. But I'm not that disappointed to hear it's going away. It just means that we'll have to figure out our accounting system somehow, and that's not my problem.
That's not your problem. Well, the thing is, it's going to turn into, which has already existed, Edge, Microsoft Edge.
I don't.
And
like Edge.
They both suck.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yes.
Just
It's funny when you open Internet Explorer now, it's like, have you heard of Edge?
And then when you open up Edge, it's like, have you heard of any other of these browsers?
Open up Edge, look up for Google Chrome.
Yeah.
Firefox.
A couple more stories that I have here, and we're almost done here. I wasn't going to bring this up, but it's a huge deal for a lot of people out there. And the Berserk manga creator, Kentaro Miura, has died at age 54. For those of you who don't know, Berserk is like one of the most influential mangas and then animes.
Long running,
to ever exist. It's kind of like the blueprint to a lot of your favorite or at least if you don't watch anime, you'd recognize like aspects like giant swords and crap like that because it all came from Berserk. Yeah. And the creator has unfortunately passed away.
It's very sad.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And Angus specifically said if we bring this up to let everybody know that he is very saddened by this news.
That's why he couldn't be on today's episode.
He's actually upstairs crying right now.
Well, you shouldn't cry because we have Hocus Pocus 2 officially announced. Bette Midler tweeted it's coming.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's what's the gap between the first, like it's been like what, 2 decades?
Honestly, I've only watched Hocus Pocus, the first one, last October.
Oh wow.
We're talking time. That was the first time I watched it. Yeah.
I would say I only watched it in university was the first time I watched it. I didn't watch it. It wasn't something that I like grew up with or anything. So it might not be as old as I think it is. Although I did, it was 10 years ago that I was in university. So yeah,
we're old. Sarah.
I know.
I think, let me see. I think that's it, because how do we top Hocus Pocus 2? The way we do it is we talk about, oh my God, how do we set this up? Oh my God, we're doing a double feature this week, everyone, because I heard through the grapevine, Angus and Sarah were watching this movie, and I don't know enough people who've watched it. And I keep telling people to watch these movies because I'm like, you're fucking doing yourself a disservice by not watching these movies because it's just a lovely fucking time and more people should watch them. And so when I heard Angus and Sarah were watching this, I'm like, well, Angus has been on way too many podcasts. And I don't get to talk to Sarah ever. So I'm having Sarah on this episode. Sarah, do you want to introduce the movies of the week?
Yes. The movies of the week are Paddington and Paddington 2.
Stranger danger. Keep your eyes down. There's some sort of bear.
Hello. Hello there.
Mary.
It's a young bear needs our help, Henry. It's just for one night.
Do bears even have names?
My name is...
Or perhaps you'd like an English name.
An English name?
Paddington.
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 Paddington? Sorry.
Oh, Paddington. Okay. We're going to tackle these movies one at a time and then give a summation of our feelings afterwards. But I want to start specifically in the spot of what is your nostalgia, if any, of Paddington, your relationship with Paddington before going into these movies.
So Paddington wasn't something that I grew up with. It was something I was peripherally aware of as a child. Like my mom liked Paddington actually, and I think my grandmother really did as well. But I was aware of Paddington. I knew that he was a bear with like a blue, to me it was a raincoat and a red hat, and he ate marmalade. And that was actually, every time I saw marmalade, I thought of Paddington. Not that I ate marmalade a lot.
Right, right. I've never had marmalade. Have I? I'm not sure. But Paddington makes me want to have marmalade.
It's pretty good. It's just like orange jam.
Great.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
It's good.
Lots of sugar, it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you've heard of Paddington, but you've never really, Paddington, for those of you who don't really know, it's a children's book series.
Yes.
I think
it was also a cartoon for a while.
Oh, yes. It's true.
I did see a few episodes of the cartoon.
Right. And
but
it's
it wasn't
a very
regular.
popular UK series for children. And just, you got this bear, red hat,
for a good reason,
blue coat, and loves marmalade. That's all that I knew about that's all I knew. And I remember when these movies came out, there was a lot of buzz around it, and people that loved movies the same way I do were talking about Paddington. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, it's Paddington. What are you talking about? Like what? I mean, I'm sure it's great, but or good, but how much are we talking about here? And I wasn't really I didn't know. And then I watched them. And then over the years, I've watched them quite a few times and stuff like that. This is your first time watching them.
This was our first time watching it. Yes.
Exciting. Let's start with Paddington. Actually, let's start with a general feeling of, and we can get deeper into this as we talk about the movies, but upon watching Paddington 1 and 2, how do you feel?
Good. It was very good. It was a very heartwarming couple of movies. And actually, particularly, you know, as we're in lockdown now, it was really nice to have these warm, fuzzy feelings that I get to watch with a movie.
Yeah. I feel the same. And let's go right into Paddington 1. In 2014, Paddington 1, directed by Paul King, written by Paul King. And we don't have to go through the entire plot of this movie, but I guess we can start from there. I don't know exactly where to start because I'm just like, my favorite thing about Paddington is Ben. I think it's Ben Whishaw. I don't know how to say his last name very well.
I think so.
But his voice performance of Paddington is perfect.
It's so sweet. He's got such a sweet and polite mellow voice. Like he radiates calm. It's wonderful.
And it's so sincere.
Yes.
And anytime he says Aunt Lucy, and I'm like, fuck, man, you're killing me right now. And then the whole Brown family, just like it's such a nice family too. I don't know. The family dynamic in this movie is very good.
They're wonderful. It's very true to what you would expect any, you know, loving family to be like. I think there's a book out there that says, you know, all loving families are the same. But this one is a little bit different.
And they have their own quirks and stuff, as you would expect. Let's go with give me your quick rundown of what happens in Paddington 1.
You want me to describe the movie? So it starts off, excuse me. It starts off almost exactly like Spider-Man.
Radioactive spider, Uncle Ben.
Paddington lives with his aunt and uncle, or at least two bears that he calls his aunt and uncle. Actually, no, it starts off before that. Sorry, I'm cutting to the middle there.
Yeah.
It starts off with an adventurer an explorer going to darkest Peru. He's a member of the Geographers Guild. And he meets these bears who talk, and he teaches them all about London and marmalade and hats and clothes. I don't think they were wearing clothes before this explorer found them.
Either, yeah.
And then the explorer leaves, and then several years pass, and all of a sudden there's a Paddington bear, although he's not named Paddington yet.
Yes. Not yet.
And then Spider-Man happens.
Yeah, you're right. I guess so.
So there's a terrible tragedy, and his uncle passes away in a natural disaster. There's no
Pastuzo.
Yeah, Uncle Pastuzo. It was so sad. But I immediately thought of Spider-Man, because I was like, oh no, this is
Michael Gambon has been there for like a hot second, and is just Uncle Pastuzo. I just love the way he says it.
Yes. And then he and his Aunt Lucy are there, and they decide that they're going to go to London.
Mm-hmm.
And then they make their way to the boat, and she gets him all settled in on the boat, and then says, sorry, no, I'm too old. I'm not coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go live in the home for retired bears.
Yeah. Whatever that means.
Yes, which is very suspect at the time.
Yeah.
And then he gets on a boat to London.
And he has an adorable tag on him.
Yes, he does. It's like the old World War II. I shouldn't say adorable in World War II in the same sentence.
Right.
But when they sent children away from London, they would have all these little tags with twine on them. And so, you know, he has one on him, and he goes looking for a home. He arrives in London looking for a family to take him in. I don't know how much you really want me to go through the whole plot.
Well, I mean, like, you're doing great so far, and we don't have to, like, I think from there, that's like the main setup of the movie. And then that's when he quickly meets the Brown family. We have like Sally, is it Sally Hawkins in this movie, or is it Field? I always forget.
Hawkins.
Okay. Yes. I always mix up the two. Hawkins. Yes. And Hugh Bonville, he's the father and stuff like that. And you have like this great dynamic already of like, oh, we don't need to, it's kind of classic in a way where you're like, okay, I already kind of see what's going to happen and stuff, but it's okay, because you're just in it for the lovely ride. And it's a whole like trying to find Paddington trying to find the explorer and ultimately somewhere he belongs in a family. And it turns out his family are the people beside him all along. Yeah, it's one of those. And then we have Nicole Kidman in the mix as well. What did you think of her?
She was great, actually. I will say I did. I had a hard time believing her as an evil person, just because when I look at her, I see Nicole Kidman, and I'm like, oh, you're nice. But she did a great job being the right level of villain. I would think it was very believable.
I think both of these villains in both of these movies, and we'll get to the second one in a second, are like cartoonishly evil, right? Like they're evil.
Yes.
But it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's like she has a very specific goal in mind that like nobody in their right mind would do this kind of thing. But because she's an evil villain, I guess I don't need to worry about spoilers in this.
No, you don't.
She wants to like take Paddington and stuff him and show him off in the museum.
Yeah.
And why? Who knows? You know.
Yeah, it turns out she was a descendant of the explorer and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to be with you because you're trying to kill me. And then it's such a simple movie trick, I guess, but just I love the turn of the family, especially the father figure.
Yes.
And you're like, he's just like, you know what? Paddington is family. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's such good payoff because he's such a grump for like the first 2/3 of the movie. Like he's a bit of a wanker. He really is. He's like, oh, get this bear out of my house. He needs to go to an orphanage. Like,
is there any best moments in the first Paddington for you?
Ooh, I actually, just all of the scenes where they cut the house open, actually, I think are fantastic. The cinematography in this movie is phenomenal. But I really like the storytelling and how they show a lot of things and they don't necessarily tell you. But the house was a big one. I must confess, Paddington 1, I even though I watched it only like a week ago, I remember it more as feelings than individual scenes.
I think that's fine, I guess, right? Like I feel like that way with a lot of films too. Like, but you're right. Like the visual aesthetic of like I don't know, like a dollhouse kind of diorama type of stuff where you get to see the entire family side by side and room side by side kind of thing to see what they're doing, and then a narration on top is like super creative. And I think both movies do this where they really push the boundaries of CGI and a lot of completely creative moments as well in these movies.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of very creative storytelling in this. And I'm trying to, like, the neighbor, who plays the neighbor?
Peter Capaldi?
Yes. He is fantastic in this movie. One of the key things, he plays a nosy neighbor who doesn't want Paddington around. And he ends up aiding and abetting Nicole Kidman in her quest to fetch Paddington.
Honeypot.
But he realizes that, I mean, he just wants to send the bear back to Peru.
Yeah, he doesn't like bears.
Yeah, but once he finds out that Nicole Kidman is trying to stop him and put him on display in a museum, he anonymously, quote unquote, anonymously calls the Brown family and lets them know. And I thought it was great just to have a little bit more nuance in that character where he's not just like, a prick.
For sure. I'm trying to think as well, because like I love all of those Peter Capaldi moments, like you said, and I'm trying to remember because I just watched Paddington 1 and 2 basically one day after the other, and Paddington 2 sticks out to me more. I like both films, but I think Paddington 2 to me is a more some may say it's the best movie of all time with Rotten Tomatoes.
Better than Citizen Kane.
And I've never seen Citizen Kane, but I'd much rather watch Paddington 2 over Citizen Kane.
I have seen Citizen Kane and I agree with that statement.
Okay. But Paddington 1 is just so wholesome, and like just to see like the fish out of water stuff, and I love the stuff where they bring the little connections that they bring from the first movie to the second movie.
Yes.
But like in the first movie, you get a lot of like those fish out of water things like I was talking about, where like Paddington's using the toothbrushes into his ears.
Yes.
Gross. He always finds a way in both movies to basically do like a Rube Goldberg type of thing where like one thing hits another thing and then a series of unfortunate events and then the bathroom is flooded.
Yeah. He's a very clumsy bear. And I like his Amelia Bedelia kind of interpretation of things at times where people tell him to do things, but because he's from the jungle in Peru, he has no idea about
darkest Peru.
But like I don't know, he just, the way he interacts with the world is very novel, and it's wonderful to see just kind of a different perspective of how we do things in society sometimes.
And I love like the core of just Paddington himself, of just like always bringing the spirit of his uncle and aunt, much like Spider-Man, I guess. Like, but like that is such a core staple of who he is, right? It's always like be polite, say hello to people, and don't. And then if someone's stepping out of bounds, then give them the hard stare.
Oh, I loved the hard stare. I loved it.
Yeah, and you get that in both movies, and everyone's just like, "Oh my god, what's happening? Stop it! Stop it!" And that's just like as aggressive as Paddington gets in these movies.
Yes. Yeah, he'll stare you down if you're being rude.
And that's all he'll do.
That's his superpower.
Yeah. But yeah, and I love his dynamic with the rest of the family too. Like he has a specific relationship with every single member of this family.
Yes.
And they all in the first movie get to know him and then care for him. And then especially the kids. The kids are always like, Paddington, we got to save him. There's always like, we got to save him. We got to be with him kind of moment. And it's just very sweet.
Yeah. I love the kids. I love how they do seem like actual kids, like they're not, they have their own quirks. The daughter in the first movie is absolutely obsessed with appearing cool. She doesn't want to do anything that looks uncool. And the son is just, like me as a child. He's pretty nerdy, and he has his own little hobbies. He loves like trains and building things, making his own little inventions.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they kind of flip in the second movie, which is
all right,
its own little thing.
Yes, so we can get to the second movie in just a second, and I guess. Final thoughts on Paddington. I mean, of course we can go through the entire movie, but we don't need to. I just think like you're right. The feeling of Paddington is the thing that sticks with me the most, and the creativity. But what are your final thoughts on just Paddington 2014?
I think if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. You might learn something about yourself along the way.
Yeah, that's so nice. It's so... he just wants to find a home.
Yeah.
And he does. And it's so sweet.
And he's so polite.
He's so freaking polite. It kills me. Okay, let's talk about the greatest movie of all time. Paddington 2 came out in 2017. And I have to say, there is a Paddington 3 that I'm looking up right now that is greenlit. But it does not look like the original director will come back for it.
Oh no.
I'm like, oh no. Don't do it then. There's no don't
just leave them. Just leave them be.
Paddington's perfect as it is. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But Paddington 2, what are your gut thoughts on Paddington 2?
I think it should have been called Paddington 2 Prison Reform. I did not expect for the movie to take place with Paddington in prison for most of it.
A lot
of it. And somehow still be an absolutely phenomenal movie. Like if you had told me that was the plot going into it, I would have been like, what is this?
Yeah, it's nuts. And I'm like with Paddington. Oh, sorry. I was thinking of a scene from Paddington 1, and I'll go back to my favorite moment in Paddington 1, which is like the whole like creepy security guard when they're going through the archives.
Yes.
And you have the Mr. Brown dressed up as a woman, and the security guard is really into him. And that whole scene. And then in the second movie, you get a payoff again, because the same security guard is attracted to another man dressed as a woman.
But it's a nun this time.
Yes, that's true. It's just great.
Cool your jets, security guard.
Yeah, exactly. And the marmalade sandwich and the birds and stuff like that in the first movie when he tosses them out.
great. Actually, that's probably my biggest thing about Paddington, both movies, is that almost everything has a payoff.
Yes.
Like they don't bring something up without not just referring to it, but it actually has use. Like everything that they show you is useful.
Very simple trick. We do it in improv a lot too. It's just like you introduce a thing, this person always comes into a conversation talking about jam, and then like later someone would come in talking about jam and people would lose it. But a lot of movies do this thing where they bring it up and they forget about it and they don't care. And Paddington, both movies, they always pay off those things.
They do it so well too. It's almost always a very creative like callback, where in Paddington 2, I won't skip to the end, but the end, there's a lot of payoff, just like smack in a row. And every single time I was like, oh yeah, right. Oh, that's so great. Yeah.
Well, we can touch upon that, I guess, and then kind of skip around hopscotch. But like, the whole family at the beginning, you're like, where are the family right now? Yes. And they explain all of it. They're like, oh, the son is into trains, like you said. Oh, the girl is into, or the daughter is into newspapers, and the mother is a swimmer and she's training to do like the Tour de France type of swimming thingy.
Yeah, she's gonna cross the English Channel.
The father, used to be really good at carnival games, I guess.
Yeah. And the coconut toss.
Yeah, and like all of those things. They bring back all of them. And it's like
the yoga thing too.
Yes. Oh my God. It's so good for that. Yeah. So with Paddington 2, I found, and don't get me wrong, I love Paddington 1. I think Paddington 1 is awesome. But Paddington 2, there's something about it. I think it might be that like extra layer of like payoff and world building and character building. And I think the stakes are higher too. And it never gets away from the core of the feeling of Paddington and the message it's trying to send. So even though these like grand scale chases of trains and stuff like that is happening, it all comes back to this like really sweet idea of like Paddington just wants to give a gift to his aunt.
Yeah, he wants to send like a pop-up book.
Yeah, he just wants to show how much he loves his aunt and appreciates her.
Yeah, so he wants to bring London to her, and it's so sweet. And he goes to prison for it.
Okay, so with Paddington 2, we don't have to go through the whole synopsis of the movie, but we have just like the cliff notes of it is, yes, Paddington 2 wants to show his love for his Aunt Lucy, which we hear way more about in this movie and the lessons that she brings. He wants to get her a pop-up book that costs a lot of money. We have this amazing just sequence of events of Paddington working for money. Cleaning windows with his ass.
Yeah. His tum and his bum.
Yeah.
It's a very good window cleaner.
Amazing briefcase that you just kind of like crank. It's a ladder.
Yeah.
And just that the entire town loves Paddington. Yes.
He has an impact on every single person that he sees in the neighborhood. Like, he brings breakfast to this cycling lady, and he helps the garbage man study for his exam and all sorts of things.
He reminds a guy to don't forget your keys. Yeah, that thing. And it's just little things. And Peter Capaldi is still a little grouch about stuff.
Yes, he's very grumpy still.
He's still very grumpy, and that's okay because you need a character like that.
Yes.
And then we have Hugh Grant, which is the big thing in this movie, a new villain. And let's talk about him.
Hugh Grant I don't understand why he didn't just borrow the book. like, can I borrow this and take pictures of it for just a second? Like, you didn't need to steal this book. Anyway, sorry. I jumped right into the middle of the Hugh Grant story there. It's all good. So he's a showman. He's an old actor
who does dog commercials.
Kind of a has-been, yes, who does dog commercials. He used to be very well renowned, I suppose. And then, he's looking for a treasure that the map is this book that Paddington wants to send to Aunt Lucy.
Yeah, Paddington doesn't know it's a treasure map. He just he just loves it.
It's just a great cute pop-up book.
It's just a cute book.
And actually, can we talk just very briefly about the pop-up book sequence when he first talks about it?
Holy shit. Yeah.
He sees this book and it pops open, and all of a sudden he and Aunt Lucy are transported to London through this pop-up book. And it's such a fantastic segment. It's so beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's sweet. And you get very like another moment in this movie that's kind of like that, where they just amp up the animation for just a sequence. You have it where they're trying to describe how Hugh Grant robbed the antique store.
Yes.
And then they change the animation style, which is just more like cartoony altogether, and it looks gorgeous.
It's great. It's all in the style. Actually, we didn't bring this up, but Sally I want to say Field.
I know, it's Sally Hawkins, but
Sally Hawkins, her character, the mom, she is an illustrator.
Oh yes,
for adventure books, and so a lot of and they show her illustrations at the beginning of the movie, and a lot of the later illustrations are in her style, or what we are, understand as her style, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful form of storytelling because it always indicates adventure when it's shown.
Yes. And with Hugh Grant, I have to say, I just want to celebrate Hugh Grant because, Hugh Grant, I like him. I don't really know a lot of his movies and stuff like that, to be honest, and stuff he's been in, but I know he's been in a ton of stuff. I know Love Actually is a big thing, but I don't really watch that. But in this movie, he just has a whole feast from this role.
Yeah. He plays like a one-man show, in the movie.
Yeah.
But to nobody, constantly. He's constantly acting, just the character.
It's incredible because he's such a weirdo as his just base character, and he dresses up the role to be many different things that he's been in the past, what is he? He's like a knight.
Like a knight, yeah.
A knight, all these things. And you have moments in the movie where he just gets to act in a mirror by himself, have a conversation with himself, and then jump to another character, still acting as himself. And you'll see the mannequin, just the face of the mannequin, and then he'll voice out the mannequin so he can talk to himself. And it's holy shit, this is amazing.
Yes, he's so good in this role. He is a believable as a guy who's kind of slowly losing his grip on reality, which is he does it in a very satisfying way, I would say.
Yeah, and I think more entertaining villain than Nicole Kidman's.
Yes.
And I like Nicole Kidman's character just fine. I think she was great. Yeah. But with Hugh Grant, they give him so much more to chew on in the film. And and it's all top. They know this too, because the post-credit sequence is literally a musical number with Hugh Grant.
Yes. Which I want to talk about that, but we'll wait till the end.
Yeah, for sure. So just give it a moment. Hugh Grant, amazing in this film. Love it so much.
Phenomenal. Him, but also actually the person who really stood out to me in this movie was Brendan Gleeson.
Yes. So let's get to that part. So we have, Hugh Grant steals the book, basically frames Paddington, or throws Paddington under the bus. Paddington goes to court. The judge is the guy that Paddington cut the hair for in the barbershop. And that whole sequence, by the way, hilarious when he's holding the little razor and shaking.
Yes. It's so good.
It's so good. And he gets thrown into prison.
So this is a world where obviously people are okay with talking bears. Nobody really freaks out at the sight of Paddington. But they're also okay with throwing a small child bear in prison for 10 years for stealing a $1,000 book.
Yeah, exactly. And when he gets into prison, it's oh no, Paddington's in prison. And because it's Paddington, he finds a way. He finds a way to just be himself unapologetically, keep to his cores of Aunt Lucy. And really quickly, he's kind of shunned from everyone else in prison. But he's this food is gross because they're all eating in the cafeteria. And then he meets Knuckles, Brendan Gleeson's character. Yeah.
He's so good. And Brendan Gleeson's character is a very initially antagonistic. Like all the other prisoners are afraid of him. Nobody wants to say anything to him about the food. He's a big grump. He's a real big grump.
Huge big grump and insecure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very insecure about his food and everything else. And and then Paddington kind of, it's a great sequence where he's just like rubbing ketchup on Brendan Gleeson's stomach and then mustard and then like just spitting on it. And it's just like really funny. And then just instinctually puts a marmalade sandwich, because Paddington always has a marmalade sandwich back up in his hat.
Yeah.
And puts it into Brendan Gleeson's face. And the moment where he just like eats it and his face completely changes is fantastic.
His face lights up. He's like, oh God, this is delicious.
Yeah. And that's when like a lot of the joy comes in this movie, where it's just like this different view on prison. Cause like, prison, obviously it's prison. It's always a downer, but in Paddington, they make it feel like the place to be.
Yeah, it's great. Paddington starts a gardening club. At this point, he's already dyed all the prisoners' clothes pink.
Yes.
By accident.
And there's the whole like teaching Knuckles, Brendan Gleeson's character, how to make marmalade, and they do, and that's really great because Paddington also gives Brendan Gleeson a hard stare.
Yes,
it's really good.
That's a great payoff. That scene, it was so good just to bring it back.
Exactly. And then we have this whole like sequence of like I am Spartacus kind of thing in a little bit, where it's like, well, what else do people know how to make? And everyone's just like, I know how to make my grandmother's cake or something like that.
Some very fancy stuff that people knew how to make.
Oh my God. And then all of a sudden the entire prison goes from this pretty rough place to like eating at like, it almost seems like a fancy restaurant type of deal.
Like a tea house almost. Like it's just a very... you know, delicate cakes and all
exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone's being read bedtime stories.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. So when Paddington's first night in prison, he asked the prison guard to read him a bedtime story. And then by the end, he's reading it over the intercom for everybody.
It very sweet. I'm going to keep using that word because that's what this movie is.
It really is.
And then you have the Browns who are trying to like figure out the whole plot or the plan or who was the original person who stole the book. And I skipped over a whole Wolfie chase scene, which is also very good too, because Wolfie is a good doggo.
He's a very good doggo.
Very good doggo. And then we also have like a good interaction of the Browns meeting all of Paddington's prison mates. I thought it was really fun.
That was very good. And Mary Brown, I believe it's Mary, Sally Hawkins. She's always so cordial to everybody. She's so polite.
She's so polite. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a very good foil for her husband, who is still at times a bit of a wanker.
For sure. Well, if he was different, then we wouldn't be as entertaining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They meet the prisoners. And of course, there's all these very scary burly men with strange names like Knuckles, and I don't actually remember.
I don't remember there's like Crazy Pete and stuff like this, just like all these names, but all of them are like, hey, we love Paddington. Paddington rules. So don't worry about him. He's well taken care of in the prison.
Yeah.
And like if we want to fast forward, just this whole idea of the Brown family trying to find a way to get Paddington out, and Paddington starting to get a little insecure of like, what if they forget me kind of thing. And they do end up missing like a visit day.
Yes.
And
they almost, I think they do crack the case at that point too. Like they miss the visit because at that point they've essentially cracked the case of who's actually responsible for the book theft.
Yeah, and I don't want to gloss this over too much, but we don't have to get too deep into it. But like all of the stuff, the Brown family stuff in this movie is also really engaging. Like, they are all going onto their own like little mission, breaking into Hugh Grant's house.
The scene with Hugh Grant's house is so funny. It is so funny.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to talk about it at all.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, tell me what your favorite part of it is.
I just the pajamas thing. He's like, Hugh, the dad, Hugh Bonneville, his character is an insurance something or other, just
Yeah.
an insurance
dude. Yeah.
and Hugh Grant is known to be a customer, a platinum level customer. So Sally Hawkins and goes rummaging through Hugh Grant's house, and it's this huge endeavor to get her into his house with the kids and the grandma involved as well. Is she the grandma? I actually never figured that out.
I think she might just be a caretaker of sort.
Yeah.
I don't know. Great character.
Anyway, yes, great character. And so they break into Hugh Grant's house, and Hugh Grant comes back and catches both Sally Hawkins and Hugh Bonneville in his house. And Hugh Bonneville actually saw his wife through like a glass. And so he ran over in his pajamas, and Hugh Grant obviously does not buy what they're putting down. They're like, oh, we're here for an insurance inspection. They should have just started making out, really.
Yeah.
Like the two of them, that's a much more reasonable, plausible explanation. If I walked in and I'd be like, oh, you guys are just weird, freaky people.
Yeah, you like to break into people's houses to have sex or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But instead, no, they try to hide poorly. Very poorly. They are immediately caught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like behind a curtain and just behind a couch.
Yeah. Feet sticking out and everything.
Yeah. That is a very good scene. And then, we get this whole thing of just Hugh Grant. I guess if we fast forward even more, like Paddington breaks out of prison in this like very as wholesome as a breakout can be for prison breaks, I guess. It
reminded me a little bit actually of the Grand Budapest.
Yes.
Yes. That sequence in particular.
Yeah, because you have like Paddington like having to like climb like a clock tower situation, and him like through gears, and then they take like a hot air balloon made like from like the dirty laundry of the prison and all this other stuff out. And you have a really nice moment, and of course you do, and it's so easy, but like another grouch in the prison who hated Paddington in the beginning just sweetly says, "Good luck, Bear."
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, you're getting me right now.
It's so sweet.
It's so sweet.
It's so sweet.
How many times do we have to say it? It's a sweet ass movie.
Go watch it.
And then, like Paddington may be out, but they have to get the book.
Yes. They have to get the book because it has Hugh Grant's fingerprints on it. That's the piece of evidence that's going to clear Paddington's name.
Yeah, and that's how the family comes back together. And then it's like, hey, Paddington, we were trying to get you out this entire time. And like, there's the understanding of you're still family. Of course, you're family. And then we have this whole steam train chase, which is like a very easy moment. Another callback of just like, oh, I love steam trains, the sun. Yeah. I can handle this. Also, my name's not J-Dog, it's Jonathan. Like small things like that. And the whole train sequence I thought in this movie was just very, very good.
It was excellent. And I love trains. So it was double excellent.
Love trains. Trains are awesome. Love trains. And it's also like the actual puzzle itself seems very easy. You don't have to go through a whole book to do it.
Yeah, Hugh Grant, why did you write every note down in the book and not just on a piece of paper somewhere? Like, put it in your phone, dude.
Like there's 5 notes that you have to press in a specific sequence. He does it one time and then it closes up, and then Paddington steals the book and runs away on the train. And Hugh Grant's like, oh no, I forget the combination.
He is really bad at this whole treasure hunting thing. Just terrible. I mean, he's really good at figuring out all the individual clues, really bad at putting them together.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have like, there's a whole like hopping from train to train, Mr. Brown doing the yoga thing, doing excellent splits. Very impressive. Yeah.
Very impressive.
And we have him like tossing the ball at it seems very dangerous, by the way, because the back of the train was completely open. He could have killed the man, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And then we get some of the most like, and you knew it wouldn't end terribly, but it's a very like, my heart was beating because I already knew what was happening, but it's a very intense moment where Paddington flies off the train because his cart gets kind of taken off, basically unlatched on his own, falls into like a body of water, like a lake or like, I don't know. And then Sally Hawkins' character jumps in and she can swim, which is her thing.
Yeah.
And Paddington is stuck inside the car.
Yeah. As it's underwater. It is a very intense scene. It's much more intense than I would have thought for a movie of this age demographic, I would say. Like it's serious. It seems quite harrowing, and the stakes. I mean, even though as adults we know, of course, that Paddington's going to be okay. They're not going to kill Paddington.
But in that moment when you're watching it, it's like really well done because it tricks you to believe like, wait, when is someone going to come and save the day? What's happening?
Yeah, the potential for heartbreak is certainly there. Like it feels very heavy.
And so like if I paint the scene to people, it's essentially like Paddington's in the train car and Sally Hawkins' character's underwater and she's trying to get to Paddington. It opens up just enough where they can see each other and hold each other's hands, but it's latched by a lock. And no matter how much she pulls on the lock, it's not opening. So there's a moment where they both look at each other and they're not freaking out, but they're looking at each other in the way that's like, I love you. Things are going to be okay.
Yeah. It's like a goodbye. They're saying goodbye to each other very sadly.
Yeah. Without even saying it. And you're like, holy shit, if this actually happened in real life, I would fucking lose it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Brendan Gleeson and his gang who did escape. We had this whole thing of like they tricked Paddington into escaping. But Brendan Gleeson's like, oh, wait, I miss my friend.
Yeah. I have to come back for him.
And he does. Yeah. And they all do. And they save him.
Yes. All together.
And I guess at the very end, and like we're towards the end of the movie, I guess we're giving a bigger summary for Paddington 2 than we did for 1. Because Paddington 2 is just that good.
It is very good.
And we get another sweet moment where the whole and we have this again, I'm missing remembering stuff and having to rewind a bit. Like the whole town at one point have to kind of push the car because they miss Paddington.
Yes.
So the Brown family can save them. And now we have the whole town once again in the house because Paddington just woke up from like a 3-day fever or whatever. And we have this moment where it's just like, hey, I know you wanted the pop-up book because you wanted to bring a little bit of London to Aunt Lucy, but instead we brought Aunt Lucy to London. And Paddington's
for her 100th birthday.
Good for her for making the journey.
I know, right?
So he walks slowly to the door. It opens slightly ajar, and it seems like in a very modern kids movie or something like that, very easy way to insert a joke here. It could be like, I don't know. They could have done something where it's just like, not Aunt Lucy. It could have been like a mailman or like with like Marmalade or like something it could have been Hugh Grant, for example.
Yeah.
But no, they just give you exactly what you want. It's Aunt Lucy at the door. Loves to see Paddington. And it ends with all he says is he hugs her and says, "Happy birthday, Aunt Lucy." And the movie ends.
It's so good.
What?
I teared up. I will admit. Easily.
That's again, sweet.
Very sweet.
That's so
such
sweet.
A good ending.
And then we get post-credits. So give me your thoughts on this.
Well, so the post-credits, the one thing that killed me. So the post-credits sequence, Hugh Grant is in the same prison that Paddington was in with his pink
like
jumpsuit thing. Prison
outfit.
Yeah. And he's doing basically a Broadway performance. And it's this big number and his name is in lights and all the prisoners and all the guards are dancing and singing along with him. I thought those prisoners loved Paddington. And here's the guy who sent him to prison. Yeah. I was like, how? And Angus, of course, said, well, Paddington probably taught them forgiveness and all that stuff.
It's true.
I was still irritated on behalf of Paddington.
I think because Paddington at one sequence was like, hey, what would Aunt Lucy say to one of to the prisoners? And like, Aunt Lucy would say this. No. So I would agree that they probably taught forgiveness and stuff, all this stuff. Yeah. And they probably just want another pretty energetic person in prison that can bring another level of happiness to it.
Yeah. He seems to be doing very well in prison.
And it's great because he's happy in prison. He's just like, hey, looks like I just needed a little bit of an audience and I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He became much more well-adjusted.
So my question for you, Sarah, is give me your thoughts on Paddington 2 alone and then Paddington as a whole.
Paddington 2, I think it's just, and I don't want to use the word masterpiece, but it's an excellent story that's told, like just across the board, the cinematography, the characters, the story, everything that it comes together so well. It's such a good watch, like no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
Play this with your kids, watch it on your own, whatever. Absolutely 10 out of 10, recommend it. That's my overall thought, I guess. It's just good. It's just a good movie.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to lose sight of like children's stories being adapted to movie format. It's really easy to be like, I don't know, Peter Rabbit or something.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
I would give Sonic the Hedgehog a good rating, but like this
would agree, but it's a different kind of movie.
Yeah. It's hard to be like a movie that's adapted from stories from a book, a children's book, more or less, that gets put on the big screen that the entire family can enjoy. Yes. And it doesn't rely on like lewd humor and sexual innuendos or like, and I love a lot of these movies too that I'm like saying these things, but like, I think of like the Lego movie, which I adore, but things that is like manic energy where it's just like hitting you with pop culture references and hitting you with just like this, like, wow, look what we got and stuff. Paddington's different. It's just like very confident in the story it wants to tell, but it does this in a very polite way. Yeah. It's inoffensive to anybody.
And it's very funny. Like I'd call it a comedy movie. Like it's very humorous.
Yeah. I can think of worse movies in the world to get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is it my favorite movie of all time? No, I don't really know what is, to be honest with you. But like Paddington 2 and Paddington in general, like if that's the best movie of all time, quote unquote, sure. Yeah. Whatever. It's great.
For the definition they have. Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't imagine anybody giving it a negative review.
Yeah, like I'm sure like other people would have more favorite movies over Paddington. I certainly probably do as well. But like, I can't really think of anything wrong with the movie. Like it's totally, it's a nice time. And if you hate Paddington, then you're a bad person.
There, I said it.
I said it. Yeah. Okay, Sarah, what would you rate Paddington as a whole?
As a whole, on what scale?
Whatever scale you want. If you need a scale, then something to do with Marmalade, of course, because I'm hungry.
I would rate Paddington as a Marmalade sandwich.
I would rate, Paddington as a Marmalade sandwich inside my hat.
Yes. It's just like a Marmalade sandwich that's always available whenever you need it in an emergency, whether you just give it to somebody or use it yourself or feed a block of birds so that they kill your worst enemy. That's what I would rate it.
The Marmalade looks good. I want Marmalade because of Paddington. It just looks good. He makes it look so easy to make. Anyway.
Yes.
Brendan Gleeson can squish an orange in like 2 seconds. Yep. So, yeah. Okay, so that's it for this week's episode of Talking Tongue, the double feature. Before we go, of course, Sarah has a plug.
I do. I do have a plug. I would like to give a shout out to a charity that I actually discovered a couple months ago called Rainbow Refugees. It's a Canadian charity that provides refugee services to LGBTQ plus individuals, so individuals who are facing persecution either elsewhere or even within Canada. So helping them come to safety.
Amazing.
Rainbow Refugees.
Yeah. Thanks, Aunt Sarah. Thank you, Aunt Sarah. I can't do his voice. I can't do it.
Be very difficult.
Yeah, it's very. Aunt Lucy. I don't know why I'm trying. Okay. Yes. Check out that charity, please. Yes, it's just nice to give back in general. So let's, it's a dark time out there. Give if you can. Yes. That's to go on top of this plug. And for myself, you can find the rest of the shows in Podcavern at www.podcavern.com. If you want to buy a t-shirt, also at podcavern.com. Get
Actually,
one.
I'm wearing one right now.
No way.
You can't
I don't
see
believe
it.
you. I can't see it. You don't have to. Okay. I do see. There is not lying, everyone.
They're good shirts.
Great. They are good shirts. I'm happy they are. I'd be very sad if they weren't, because I did not quality test them before I put them on sale. All right, that's it for me in the pod cavern. Sarah, you'll see her again at some point. Until then, we'll see you on another episode of Talking Tongue next week. And before we go, Sarah has a world famous catchphrase.
Yeah, leave your frown at the door.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.